She regretted the blind date until his daughter walked in and said, "You're the one from Daddy's favorite story." Isabella Harris sat tucked away in the far corner of a small cafe nestled inside a snow-dusted park, letting the warmth of the room chase away the crisp winter air outside. The frosted windows glowed with late afternoon light, soft amber beams stretching across the wooden floor as if trying to reach her. The cafe smelled of cinnamon, roasted coffee beans, and winter, comforting scents that made the world feel softer than it really was. Her blonde hair, neatly tied back except for a few rebellious strands brushing her cheeks, framed her face with an effortless elegance. She lifted her tea, savoring the warmth against her palms, and glanced at her watch out of habit rather than impatience. This was the fourth blind date she had agreed to in 3 months, all arranged by her enthusiastic but overly hopeful best friend, who had insisted, "Issa, just one more. Maybe your heart just needs the right moment, not the right resume." But every date had felt the same. Polished conversations about job titles, investment portfolios, favorite vacation spots, everyone presenting a version of perfection, everyone polished to the point of sterility. And not one of them had asked her the question she longed to hear. How do you feel? That question felt almost ancient in a world obsessed with credentials and future projections. She had nearly convinced herself to accept today's disappointment early when the cafe door chimed open. Jason Miller stepped inside, brushing snow from the shoulders of a worn jacket. He stood tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in jeans, work boots, and a forest green flannel shirt. Nothing curated, nothing flashy. There was a quiet confidence about him, a warmth that made him seem instantly familiar, and a faint dusting of sawdust on his sleeve that hinted at the kind of life most of her colleagues never lived. He scanned the room until his eyes found hers, and he offered a simple, genuine nod. "You're Isabella?" he asked, his voice calm and unhurried. She rose, offering a polite smile. "And you're Jason." "Thanks for meeting me," he replied, and they both sat. Small talk did its best to fill the space between them, but it kept falling flat, like two puzzle pieces pressed together at the wrong angle. He admitted early on that he wasn't good at dates or talking about himself. He wasn't polished or rehearsed, and that honesty, strangely, was refreshing. He was a carpenter, custom furniture, small shops, local homes, while she designed high-end fashion for luxury clients, constantly traveling and forever drowning in deadlines. The more they spoke, the more their worlds seemed to stretch apart, two timelines running parallel but never touching. And yet he was kind in a way that felt remarkably rare. He wasn't performing. He listened. He asked thoughtful questions. He didn't brag or try to impress her, but even with that kindness, the spark she hoped for, a spark she had almost stopped believing in, refused to appear. She parted her lips to gently bow out, ready to save them both time and heartbreak when the cafe door burst open with a flurry of cold air. A tiny girl, no more than 4 years old, bounded inside with cheeks flushed a bright rosy pink from the cold. Her curly blonde hair bounced wildly around her face as she darted toward their table with unfiltered joy. "Daddy," she cried, throwing herself into Jason's lap before either adult could react. Then she looked at Isabella with the kind of wonder usually reserved for princesses and fairy tales. "That's her, the lady from your favorite story." Jason froze, mortified. Isabella blinked in confusion. The little girl's face glowed with certainty. "You said her hair looks like sunshine," the child continued matter-of-factly. "I knew it had to be her." "Anna," Jason whispered, rubbing a hand over his face. "Honey, we talked about..." But it was too late. Anna had already pulled out a carefully folded piece of paper from her coat pocket and held it out for Isabella to see. Inside was a child's drawing, 3 stick figures, a little house, a giant sun with bright yellow rays. And one stick figure, drawn taller, with long golden hair and a bright pink dress, stood in the middle. Anna pointed proudly. "That's you," she announced. "You're the lady from Daddy's bedtime story." For the first time that day, Isabella's carefully guarded heart stumbled in its rhythm. Jason attempted to recover. "I made up a story once, just something to help her sleep." His embarrassment was almost painful to watch, but nothing about Anna's joy looked silly. The cafe suddenly seemed warmer. After an awkward yet strangely charming end to the date, they decided to walk through the snow-covered park. Twilight had settled over the trees, painting the world in soft violet hues as Anna skipped happily ahead, humming to herself. Jason glanced at Isabella apologetically. "I hope that wasn't too weird," he said. "She insisted on meeting you. I told her this was just coffee with someone new, but she's persistent." Isabella laughed softly, her breath forming clouds in the cold air. "Persistent is a compliment." "She gets it from her mom," he said, his voice shifting into something quieter. She hesitated before asking, "What happened to her mother?" Jason inhaled slowly, watching his daughter twirl ahead of them. "She passed away when Anna was 2. Leukemia. It happened fast, too fast. One moment we were a family of 3, and the next, I was figuring out how to raise a toddler alone." Her chest tightened. "Jason, I'm so sorry." He nodded gently. "Some days are still harder than others, but I tell her stories to help her sleep. Stories help us hold on to hope." They stopped near the frozen pond where families skated under strings of warm lights. Anna attempted a ballerina twirl on the snow, wobbling but determined. Isabella watched her, then turned to Jason. "She really believes the story about me?" Jason's eyes softened. "I wanted her to have someone gentle in her imagination. Someone she could look up to when things felt heavy." Her throat tightened at the sincerity in his voice. "That's a lot of faith to put into a bedtime story." He smiled quietly. "Kids see the truth better than we do sometimes. She saw something hopeful in you." For the first time in a long while, Isabella felt seen, not for her achievements or her elegance, but for something deeper. The next Saturday, she found herself at Jason's workshop behind an old barn, surrounded by stacks of reclaimed wood and the comforting smell of pine and sawdust. Inside, Jason chiseled a chair leg as Anna colored with intense focus. When Isabella stepped in, Anna squealed with joy and ran into her arms. "You came back," she declared. "Just like the story." Isabella felt a warmth spread through her chest as she hugged the child. "I brought lunch," she said shyly, and Jason looked up from his work table with surprise. "You didn't have to," he said, wiping his hands on a towel. "I wanted to," she answered. They shared slightly burned sandwiches and warm cider outside, sitting on a wooden bench Jason had made. It was a simple moment. Peaceful, unpretentious, almost perfect. As they talked, Isabella opened up about her childhood filled with pressure, rules, and perfection. Jason shared stories about his late wife, how she embraced imperfections and believed life was meant to be messy and full of small joys. Anna chased birds in the snow, giggling with pure delight, and the world around them felt softer, kinder. Later that evening, Isabella stayed for dinner. Jason nearly burned the rice. Anna stirred the soup with dramatic seriousness, and they laughed together in the tiny kitchen. It was a chaotic, imperfect meal, but for Isabella, it felt safer than any luxurious dining room she'd ever sat in. She read Anna a bedtime story afterward, and the child curled up in her lap like she had always belonged there. From the doorway, Jason watched them, a look of warmth and something deeper settling across his face. That night, Isabella realized she didn't want to leave, but real life, as always, had other plans. Her mother insisted on hosting a formal dinner at the Harris estate, a place of cold marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and walls that held more judgment than warmth. Isabella brought Jason and Anna despite her fears. She fixed his collar beforehand, whispering, "Just be yourself. That's all I need." But inside the dining hall, the atmosphere chilled. Jason's modest background was exposed in every raised eyebrow. When a relative asked Anna about her prep school, Jason admitted, "She doesn't go to a private school. I can't afford the tuition." And the silence that followed cracked something inside him. Margaret Harris finally spoke, sipping her wine with icy grace. "Not everyone is meant to reach the same heights. Some dreams belong to other skies." Jason's jaw tightened. He stood abruptly, lifting Anna into his arms. "Thank you for the evening. We should go." "Jason, please," Isabella begged, following him. But he shook his head. "I can't let Anna watch people shrink you or make you choose between us and a life where we don't fit. She thinks you're the princess from my bedtime stories, the one who brings warmth into our home. I won't let her see that dimmed." He left into the cold night with Anna clinging to his neck, and Isabella stood frozen, realizing the cost of her silence. 2 agonizing weeks passed. Then everything changed. Her mother came home shaken after her car broke down near a humble neighborhood. A man had helped her, a carpenter, calm and kind, with sawdust on his sleeves, and a little girl had thanked her for taking care of Daddy's sunshine. Margaret's walls cracked. Isabella's heart broke open. She grabbed her coat and ran. Snow fell gently when she reached Jason's workshop. She hesitated only a moment before knocking. Jason opened the door, tired but steady. Isabella stood there breathless, snowflakes caught in her hair. "I was wrong," she whispered. He didn't reply, just waited. "I thought I had to choose between the life I knew and the love I felt. But I don't want half a life anymore. I want both. You, Anna, my family, a family I choose, not one I'm forced into." A tiny face peeked from behind Jason. "Mommy Princess?" Anna whispered hopefully. That broke him. He stepped forward and pulled Isabella into his arms. Anna hugged their legs. "Can we read the story again?" she asked. "The one where the princess comes back?" Jason kissed her hair. "Tonight we write a new one." And Isabella stayed. Months later, at a children's art gallery, Anna recited a poem about finding a mother in The Lady with Sunshine Hair, and Margaret, softened by truth and time, whispered gently, "My granddaughter has talent." Jason nearly cried. Isabella's eyes shone. Anna smiled brighter than any spotlight. That night, around a simple dinner table filled with mismatched plates and warm laughter, something clicked into place. The house wasn't large, but it was full of love, of hope, of healing, of family. 1 year later, the Story Nook and Cafe opened in a small lakeside town, built by Jason's hands and Isabella's heart. Jason crafted furniture in the back workshop, and Isabella read stories to children, often with Anna curled in her lap in her favorite pink dress. Margaret visited often, softer than she had ever been, proudly telling neighbors that Anna was her granddaughter, because family wasn't blood. It was love. On a quiet evening, Jason sat beside Isabella on the couch, Anna sleeping with her head in Isabella's lap. The fireplace glowed. Everything felt warm and whole. "This is our story now," Anna murmured half asleep. Isabella pressed a kiss to her hair. Jason laid his hand over theirs. "I used to think perfect. Endings were the best ones," she whispered. "But now I know the best stories are the ones you never want to stop reading. And the ones you write together," Jason added softly. As twilight settled outside and love filled the little home, Isabella looked at them, her daughter, her partner, her family, and whispered, "The day I thought I regretted the blind date was the day our story began." The house glowed through the window like a promise, a family not chosen by circumstance, but by heart, a forever story.